everyone, it's Maki here. Today, I'd like to share some more information about the second installment of Hathaway's Flash. As before, I'll be covering details discussed in the Japanese media. First up is now hero Ogata, who oversees the commercial strategy for the entire Gundam series. Keisuke Kosai served as a producer for Hathaway's Flash. Shinichiro Inoue worked as the editor for the novel version. Today, I'll be introducing the unique characteristics of the second installment that they discussed. This time, the focus will be on the production as a whole rather than on mobile suits or story developments. That said, there will be a few spoilers discussed as well. If you would prefer to watch the film without prior knowledge, I recommend watching today's video after you've seen it. If you'd like, please consider supporting my channel by joining the 99-cent monthly membership. As a thank you, you'll receive a name badge and exclusive comment stamps. Now then, let's get started. The first topic is the overall direction of the story. In Hathaway's Flash, the protagonist is Hathaway Noah, a member of the terrorist organization known as Maki. Back when the novel was originally published, a story centered around the protagonist carrying out anti-government activities as part of a terrorist organization was extremely unusual. Inoue explained that at the time the novel was published, it would have been impossible to adapt that kind of story into an anime. The novel version began publication in 1989. According to Inoue, it was an era when heroes were expected to be pure admirable and powerful figures. He used Shaw's counterattack as an example while discussing this topic. Inoue was also involved in the production of the novel version, Belto Chika's Children. In that novel, the fact that Amore has a child serves as an important element of the story. To be precise, the child exists as a fetus inside its mother's womb. This idea originally existed in the early concepts for the movie version. However, it was rejected by executives at the production company because they believed that Tamaro should be portrayed as a hero, not as a father. The novel version was created by reusing the discarded idea. These kinds of policies existed within any production companies at the time. That is one reason why many people believed Hathaway's Flash could never be adapted into an anime. Now then, some of you may have noticed a question that naturally comes to mind after hearing all of this. That question is about Zeta Gundam. The Eugo, the organization featured in Zeta Gundam, is also an anti-government group. Many members of the Federation military eventually cooperate with them, but their origins lie in armed resistance against the government. In that sense, they are very similar to Maki. However, Mr. Yoshiyuki Tomino never presented the idea that the protagonists are terrorists in a particularly direct manner. Even among fans, Zeta Gundam is often described as a series that is difficult to understand. Could it be that one reason for this reputation is that Tomino intentionally portrayed the story's foundation, the fact that the protagonists are terrorists, in an ambiguous way? Of course, please remember that this interpretation includes some of my own personal speculation. However, if we examine Zeta Gundam alongside Inoue's statement that stories with terrorists as protagonists would not have been accepted by audiences of that era even if they had been adapted into anime, we may discover some interesting new perspectives. Ogata also discussed the idea that an anime adaptation was impossible. When he was a newly hired employee, he asked a senior staff member a question. Why can't Hathaway's Rush be adapted into an anime? The response was that it would be impossible to bring a design as complex as the She Gundam to the screen through hand-drawn animation. Among fans, two explanations are often discussed. One is that Hathaway's Rush was never animated because the protagonist is a terrorist. The other is that the design of the main Gundam is simply too complex. The truth is that neither explanation alone is correct. Both were real factors. The also stated that there were concerns about whether audiences would accept the ending of Hathaway's Rush if it were adapted for animation. Hathaway's story is a work that only became a film after overcoming two major obstacles. The also spoke about the Unicorn Gundam. Like the original, it is a highly complex design filled with many intricate lines. It was revealed that the design of the Unicorn Gundam was based on the assumption that it would only exist in the novels and would never be animated. The She Gundam was named as such because it was intended to inherit the legacy of the new Gundam. Meanwhile, the Unicorn Gundam was created by further developing the cycle frame technology introduced in the new Gundam. Depending on your interpretation, calling them sibling machines would not be inaccurate. A third similarity has now been revealed. Both were designed under the assumption that they would only exist in novels and would never be animated. However, as we all know, Unicorn Gundam was eventually adapted for animation. The explained that the main reason for this was the advancement of computer graphics technology. The successful animation of Unicorn Gundam also proved that complex mobile suits originally designed for novels could be brought to life in animation. Hathaway's Rush was eventually made into a film because Unicorn Gundam was successful. However, Hathaway's Rush was not created entirely using computer graphics. Kasai explained that some scenes were animated by hand, and he was amazed by the animator's skill. This challenges the long-held belief of Ogota's early days at the company that it is impossible to do by hand. Computer graphics technology has advanced, as has human skill. Consequently, it became possible for the She Gundam to appear in hand-drawn animation. Kasai also shared a comment from one of the animators. According to the animator, it is easier than the Unicorn Gundam Unit 2 Banshee Norm. The animator reportedly explained that Banshee was especially difficult to draw by hand due to its complex horn design. This veteran animator appears to have been responsible for scenes in which the face is shown prominently on screen. The specific scenes he worked on were not revealed. Therefore, it may be worth paying close attention to scenes in which the She Gundam's face is shown in a large close-up. Technological advancement and the accumulation of human expertise are also core themes at the heart of the Gundam series itself. It's a fascinating story. Finally, the discussion turned to a very minor detail. Inoue asked about the scene in which the MAF team members are shown spending time aboard the flagship, the Valiant. It's a memorable scene because each person is doing something different. Kasai was asked what the intention behind the direction was. He explained that it is a technique frequently used by Tomino. Kasai said that he had particularly learned this approach while working on Reconquista in G. Tomino instructed the staff to animate not only the main characters, but also the people in the background. The idea is that viewers should feel that these people are genuinely living their daily lives. If the people in the distance were completely motionless, viewers would subconsciously sense that something felt unnatural. Achieving this effect required a great deal of time and effort, but it was considered important. When watching the film, try paying attention to the movements of the background characters rather than just the main characters. It's a small detail, but it's also an area where the staff poured a great deal of passion into the production. That's all for today's episode. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. I'll see you again in the next video.